4.3, Solving Quadratic Equations by Factoring, Part 2. Let's take a look at some factoring that's requiring a little bit more work, and the reason it's a little bit more work is we have a coefficient other than 1 for the x squared term. So we're trying to factor this. Now we can split up the 6x into 3x and 2x, or we can separate it by 6x times x. Those will create our first term. Now what creates 5 is 5 times 1. The question is, do I put 5 here, 1 here, or 1 here, and 5 here? Now with a 6x and x, do I put the 5 here, do I put the 1 here, 1 and 5? Okay, so there's all these possibilities. Now I know that one of the signs has to be positive and one has to be negative. So then I go ahead, well, is this the positive one and this is the negative? And then I check, or should it be the other way around? Should I have negative here and positive here? It gets to be a lot of guess and check. What I'm going to show you is a way to get to the answer without having to go through a lot of error analysis here. All right, so what we're going to do is we take a look at these first terms right here and we multiply them. And so that's going to be equal to negative 30. Now with negative 30, what we want to do is find all the ways we can make negative 30. So 1 times negative 30, 2 times negative 15, and so on. And then we can switch signs, negative 130, negative 215, and so on. What we want to do is we want to find out when negative 30, when we add the factors, that'll be 13x. And this is where we're going to add up 13, because negative 2 and 15 add up to 13. So that's what we want to use. So this is how we go about doing this. We're going to write 6x squared, and we're going to write the number 13x this way. We're going to write plus 15x minus 2x, and that's going to create our 13x minus 5. So what we're doing is we're taking our 13x and we're rewriting it. Now you could put the negative 2x in the front and the 15x in the back. I'll go ahead and do that problem too so that you can see it really doesn't make a difference as long as I'm making the 13x. Okay, now what we want to do is we're going to take this portion here and we're going to find the greatest common factor, and the greatest common factor is 3x. So when I take a 3x, I'll have a 2x, and I'll take an x out and I'll have a plus 5 here. All right, now I want to do the same thing here. I want to take out the greatest common factor, which is going to be a negative 1, so this is going to be negative, and then this is going to be 2x plus 5. Now I want you to notice that both of these terms have this common factor of 2x plus 5. When we pull it out, we are going to get left over 3x, and then you're going to have minus 1. And this is the factored form, so this is the answer. Now, if I had put it the other way around, my greatest common factor would have been 2x. I would have had 3x minus 1 plus the common factor here is 5, and this would have been 3x minus 1. My common factor is that 3x minus 1, and then what's left over after I factor it out is 2x plus 5. So you see I'm getting the same answer. How do I know this works? Well, I know these two make 6x squared. I know my outer is negative 2x. I know my inner is 15x. That makes the 13x that I want. And my last terms make negative 5. All right, let's go ahead and do it again. We're going to do this process. Now, I know we know how to do this a different way, but I will show you that this still works. Here's the number 1. You're going to take both of these, and that's the number 20 when you multiply them out. These are all the ways to make 20. These are all the ways to make positive 20. And what we want to do is, since this is positive here, we want to find when the sum will be equal to 9. And that's going to be happening right here with 4 and 5. So we're going to write x squared plus, and then we're going to write 4x plus 5x. See, that's what's going to create the 9x. Plus 20 is equal to 0. Okay, now we're going to take this and get the GCF, x times x plus 4, and then the GCF here is 5, and that's going to be x plus 4 equals 0. And then we're going to factor out the x plus 4, and now we have the quadratic in factored form. All right, let's go do it here. This is going to be 6 times 20, which is 120. There are all kinds of ways to write 120. One way is to multiply -8 and -15. And -8 times -15 makes a positive 120. Those are the factors I want. So again, we're going to write 6y squared, and instead of -23y, we're going to write -8y minus 15y. And then plus 20. Equals 0. Okay, I'm going to factor. I can take a 2 out, so this is and a y, and so that'll be y take away 4, and that should be a 3y, like that, minus, and I can take out a -5, and then that'll be 3y, and then taking it out of 5, that's going to be -4. Now check your work and make sure that this creates what you want. This is going to be a 6y squared, -8y, this is going to be -15y, and this is going to be a positive 20. So now I can factor out the 3y, this is the common factor for both the terms, and I'll have a 2y minus 5 equals 0. Okay, and then I solve it by setting each one of these equal to 0. And then y will be equal to 4/3, and y here will be 5/2. And I think I forgot to solve these. X is equal to -4, or x is equal to -5. Okay, let's do it one more time. I'm going to take these two, multiply them together, that's 15. What kind of numbers add up to -15? And so that would be -5 and -3. Those multiply to make positive 15, and they add to make -8. So I'm going to write 15x squared, and instead of writing -8x, I'm going to write -5x minus 3x plus 1. I'm going to factor out 5, and that's going to be 5x. That'll be 3x, and then that'll be minus 1. I'm going to factor out a negative, and that'll be 3x minus 1. And this is my common factor, 3x minus 1. And what I have left is 5x minus 1 is equal to 0. Set each equal to 0. And x will be equal to 1/3, and x will be equal to 1/5. And those are the two numbers that work. Now, for this problem, I really like to work with an x squared that's positive. So I'm going to multiply this side by -1, and I'll multiply this side by -1. And so I'll get a 12x squared minus 8x minus 15 is equal to 0. I like working with that better. I am going to multiply these two, and instead of multiplying it out and getting a big number, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make 12 2 times 2 times 3, and I'm going to make 15 3 times 5. So I want to look for factors that when I subtract them, because I right here I have a negative, so I know I have to subtract them. I'm trying to pick out two factors that'll give me 8. So I'm thinking, let's see, there's a 10, and then this is 18. 10 and 18 make this product right here, 10 times 18, and when I subtract it, I'm going to get an 8. So that's my hint. I'm going to use 10 and 18 because they're going to make my my product here of 12 times 15. Okay, so I'm going to write 12x squared, and instead of -8x, I'm going to write plus 18x minus 10x. That makes a, oops, need to reverse that. I'm going to write -18x plus 10x. That's going to create the -x. Minus 15 is equal to 0. Okay, I'm going to use these two, and I need a 6x out, and then that'll be 2x minus 3 plus, and then I'm going to take a 5 out, and that'll be 2x minus 3 is equal to 0. The common factor is 2x minus 3, and what's left is 6x plus 5. I have factored it. I'm going to set each equal to 0. And so x will be equal to 3/2, and x will be here -5/6. And those are the answers that'll work. Okay, pause and see what you can do. And here's the answer. Again, you're taking these numbers and you write all possibilities and look for when these two will add up to -5, and that's what you want to use when you're creating your substitute for that standard form. Pause. And you don't have to solve, all you have to do is get to the factored form, but again, I found my pair that works that'll give me a sum of -11. Okay, here we have a much more difficult problem with -16 and 5. I went ahead and just worked with a -16. I could have multiplied everything and made it +16, but I found right away that 80 and -1, because this multiplies to 80, I found that 80 and -1 make my 79, which is what I want here. So I took my 80t and minus t, and that will create the 79t. I did my factoring, and then I went ahead and solved. The answer to the question is it hits the ground at 5, because that's when it crosses the x-axis. Pause and see what you can do. And here's the answer. I actually graphed this. This is the graph. And over here, it starts at -7, and over here is 7 is the other intercept. They want to know when, how long that lob's going to go. A lob is when you hit it. We're hitting it right off the court, and the ball goes up and then hits it down. So the question is, how long did it travel sideways here? And the question is, well, it traveled 7 here and 7 here, so that'll be 14.